We'll continue to dig into this now with Joel Payne and Hogan Gidley. Joel is a CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist. You will have seen him many times. And Hogan is someone I know well, a Republican strategist who formerly served as the White House Deputy Press Secretary during the first Trump administration. Joel and Hogan, great to see you. Joel, let's start with you. Tallarico appears to have defeated Crockett there in Texas. We'll have a real race between Roy Cooper and Michael Whatley in North Carolina. Overall, was this a good night for Democrats?
Look, I think Democrats have been having a lot of good nights on election nights for the last 6+ months for two reasons. One, Democrats are finding candidates that are speaking to the local issues, to the parochial matters that people care about. Whether you're in North Carolina, you have a trusted candidate like Roy Cooper. In Texas, someone like Tallarico, who can bring a broader coalition together, even in places like Maine, where you have someone like a Graham Plattner who's going to be up against Janet Mills in a primary there, who is exciting the base there. Democrats are finding people who are threading together bigger coalitions, combined with the fact that Donald Trump is deeply unpopular and Republicans are forced to run with him. That is the type of combination that is going to make Democrats feel really buoyant, not just about the House, but about the Senate. And when you look at Donald Trump doing things like driving us into a war on Iran, doing things like pushing his tariff war, that is only going to make it harder for Republicans to fight back against the inertia of what usually in parties deal with in the first midterms when they are the party in power. So I think Democrats are feeling pretty buoyant. And if I was a Republican, I'd be really concerned about the candidate who I have to run behind, or rather the president who I have to run behind if I'm a candidate, and about the resources it's going to take to defend a lot of my home turf.
Well, Hogan, let's dig into some of that, because we're now headed to two key Texas runoffs, Cornyn and Paxton for the Senate and Gonzalez and Herrera for the House seat. We also saw incumbent Texas Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw lose his primary last night. Does any of this signal a lack of unity among Republicans in your view?
No, I mean, a lot of that stuff has to do with local issues, as Joel just alluded to. I mean, the issue with Crenshaw, of course, was redistricting, and his opponent basically picked up a lion's share when the lines were redrawn of the people in that particular district. So that was tough for Crenshaw, of course. The Paxton-Cornyn fight getting national news for obvious reasons. Texas is something Democrats have coveted for a long time, but I liken Texas to Democrats like Minnesota is to Republicans. I think in large part it is fool's gold. We always talk about winning Minnesota, for example, and we always lose it by a few points. This could happen here in Texas as well. And I understand Texas really does, the Democrats there want to try and gain some ground. If they do, that's going to be quite difficult for Republicans. But right now, where we are in this political universe is miles and miles away from where we're going to be in November. And after the tax cuts kick in that Republicans passed in Congress, you see a larger tax return. It all comes back to the economy. And when you see Republican policies giving you better returns on your investments, you're seeing costs come down. That's what this race is actually going to be about. So all the stuff in the primary will work itself out in the coming months. And then we move ourselves, obviously, to the general. And that's where you're going to see some real fireworks.
Now, I want to follow up on that then, because you touched on redistricting. You know, both Texas and North Carolina's districts were redrawn to favor Republicans. But based on what we saw last night, do you believe that they're still in a strong position to retain power in Congress this November, which would be significant?
Well, it would definitely buck historical trends. As you know, the party in power during the presidential, the party out of power is the one that usually takes over in the midterm. So Republicans have an uphill battle, no question about it. The difference, though, I think, with this Republican Party as compared to Republican parties of the past is they've actually accomplished things for the American people. It's incumbent upon them to go out there and sell it at the local level. And while many Americans don't feel a lot of the good things that have happened already in this Republican-controlled Congress and with this Republican-controlled White House, they will start to feel it sooner rather than later. And remember, Joe Biden so damaged the economy. If he takes $10 out of your pocket and Republicans are able to give you 7 of it back, you still don't have the 3 you had before, but you are moving in the right direction. It's a sell that Republicans have to make in order to keep the House in the midterms.
And Joel, what do you think? Might Democrats take the House in the midterms, which would be in line with historical trends?
I think there's every expectation that Democrats are going to be in a strong position to take back the House. And I think the question that a lot of folks, not just Democrats but Republicans, are thinking about is, by how many, because that becomes important in terms of the type of check you can be on Republican power in Washington, D.C. right now. I'm fascinated by Hogan's answer here because I remember I had a lot of conversations on CBS and other places about redistricting, and Republicans were feeling really confident. And I thought pretty early on that it could be something that could backfire for a couple of reasons. I'm going to point to that race against Tallarico and Crockett. The Latino vote seemed very energized behind James Tallarico. Now, that's in a Democratic primary. And I think the big problem for Republicans right now in Texas and a lot of other places is that Latino voters have been completely alienated by this administration. Yes, on issues like immigration, on ICE enforcement, but also on the economy. All the promises that Donald Trump and Republicans made, they have fallen flat on. So if you are a Republican who is counting on this broad, new working class coalition of people of color, I got bad news for you. The returns early on don't look good, and I don't think it's going to look good 7 months from now in November.
All right. Appreciate getting straight shooting from you both, Joel Payne and Hogan